Ural start system ignition troubleshooting. A few days ago I posted where I took my bike into work, and when I came out it wouldn't start. I turned on the key, and some of the key indicators you're supposed to get neutral light. If it's in neutral, a battery light's supposed to come on when you turn the kill switch to the run position. And when I turned my kill switch to the run position, the battery light didn't come on. I knew it wasn't going to start. The 12 volts that operates the battery light goes up through the kill switch after the battery light. Then it goes down to 12 volts for your ignition, 12 volts for your start relay, and it's a 12 volt potential sitting on your alternator. But I tried anyhow. I pushed the button. It didn't turn over. So in order to get home, I had to jumper 12 volts directly to the ignition, kickstart it, and get it home. So now here I am troubleshooting the problem. So I'll show you kind of what's going on. I'll turn my key to on. The kill switch is already in the run position, and as you can see, the battery light is not coming on. So I did some preliminary troubleshooting, and I'll move the camera and I'll show you what I did real briefly. So as you can see, let me get my flashlight out. When I put the Ducati ignition in my bike, I installed the CDI underneath the seat. So it's easy to get at if I ever need to remove it or troubleshoot it or something like that. So sitting here in the garage, no, my bike isn't going to start. There's 3 places I should have 12 volts when I turn the key and put the switch in the run position. I should have 12 volts on this yellow wire going to the CDI. I should have 12 volts going to a blade connector on the alternator, and I should have the third place the 12 volts should be is to the start relay. So I'm going to check here to see if because this is the easiest thing to get to see if I have 12 volts there. So I have a small piece of wire in the pin for the yellow wire, a piece of safety wire. I'm going to turn the key on. I'm going to put one part of my meter to ground, and I'm going to put one end on this right here, on this safety wire. Try to do it where my hands aren't in the way. And I have no voltage. If I don't have 12 volts there, you can kick all you want, you can push start buttons, you could do whatever. It's not going to start. I already checked. I pulled the start relay out, which is the bottom relay right here. And I checked for 12 volts on leg 85 of that, and there wasn't 12 volts there either. So like I said before, this 12 volts goes up through the run kill switch. When it's in the run position, it comes back down through the connector of the right handlebar switch cluster. And once it comes out, it's one wire, and then it splits into 3 wires when it gets into the main wiring harness. And that's why I'm saying one of the wires has a 1-pin connector that connects to this yellow wire up underneath the tank. The other one comes down to the back of the alternator, and the third wire comes over here to the start relay. I don't have 12 volts on all 3 of those. I measured it at the alternator at that. So I got to figure out where I'm losing 12 volts. I've checked the fuse. The 5 amp fuse that the 12 volts comes out of. I have power coming out of there. So I'm going to move on to my next step. So here's my next step right here, is dealing with, I could take the switch cluster apart on the right handlebar, or I could take the headlight out of the bucket and disconnect its connector, and I can test to see if I have 12 volts on one side of the connector. And then if I do, there's a couple of different things I can try. So first of all, I'm going to see if I have 12 volts on one side of the connector. Okay, I got my little piece of safety wire in pin D of that connector. And so basically the way the wire is routed, it comes from, this is a 2006, it comes from the 5 amp fuse, and then it runs up to the neutral light, it jumpers over to the battery light, and then it goes over to pin D delta of this connector. So I'm going to see if I have any voltage there with the light on, or with the key on. And there we are, sitting at 12.5 volts. So I have voltage there. So now instead of taking the whole switch cluster apart, I'm going to bypass it. I'm going to take that little piece of safety wire, and the 12 volts goes from pin D, it goes up into one side of the kill switch, and then when it comes out of the kill switch, it comes on pin E. So if I jumper those two pins right there, it'll be in effect like I have the kill switch in the run position. Okay, I have the wire jumpered. I'm going to turn on the key and measure it again just to make sure I have 12 volts there. And I'm already feeling positive about this. I'll show you why. Oh, I'm not on the good ground. Hang on, there we go. Good ground. 12 volts. And look what happened when I turned that key on. And it's jumpered like that. My battery indicator is burning bright red. So that's telling me the 12 volts is now working on my rig. And there's a nice view of my gas tank. Hang on. So if the 12 volts is working, I got everything hooked up. Turn the gas on. Let's see what happens. Probably should pull the ignitioner out a little bit. It hasn't started. Now the problem is with the switch cluster disconnected, I don't have a, there we go. I'll just turn the key off, and that gets rid of the voltage in there. So now I found out what my problem is. My problem is somewhere in the wiring from the connector to the switch cluster up on the right hand side. So I'm going to take that all out so I can troubleshoot it and see what the problem is. And I might do another video on that, might not. But that's troubleshooting my start ignition system problem that I was having.